Before we get started, I just want to give everybody a heads up that on this series of videos, because of the collaboration with Glenn Hoover on the build instructions, they're going to take a little longer, but I want to be very meticulous as I go along. So I hope you'll be patient with me, and as I go along, you'll find this interesting. Thanks again. This is the first video in a series to build the C-1A Trader in 1-72 as part of my USS Enterprise project. The ship in 1-720 and all the Carrier Air Wing 9 aircraft that flew off of her in 1968 in 1-72, of which the last plane will be this C-1A Trader. Here I have my references. I'll talk about those in a second, and then the book. And then I'll be also recording it, so this is my setup for the phone that I have in my hand right now, to then, look down on what I'm doing during the build. And then I can take stills out of that. And then I have this other tripod with another one of those on there to capture whatever from any other angle that I need. Typically, the first thing I start with is references. And as you know, I'm building this specific year, these specific planes. I have the GRS videos as my references, which are pretty definitive. So on this project in particular, I am striving for historical accuracy as well as technical accuracy, but starting with the historical accuracy, I have the actual craft that I'm building. As far as painting and decaling and such, it's going to be these guys that drive that effort. I think I told you I went to San Diego, visited the USS Midway, took some of these shots. These are, and there's a bunch more on there, but these are ones that I took myself, so I printed those out. If you saw my home video of my trip to the Valiant Warbirds Museum, this is, and again, I got a ton more on the disc. I don't know if it was a Trader or by then a Tracker, but I think it was like for Guantanamo Bay, and I did a walk around of that, and then specifically got that folded wing and the landing gear. This is just a general photo because I want to be able to see down the side there. And then this one shows me from underneath. So I want to talk a little bit about these kits, and I want to start with this conversion kit. And as you know, I had bought this, a long time ago, thinking I would upgrade the Hasegawa kit, but this one's slightly different than this kit, the S2F1 tracker, whereas this is a US-2 tracker. And there is a difference. This kit was intended for that other Hasegawa kit. So going to my collaboration with Glenn, one of the first things he sent me, I told you I sent him these kits so that he could do his thing. And let me just read you this, excerpts of this. I finished the first cut of the book to help your C-1A project. According to the Falcon conversion kit, there are two parts for the C-1A conversion: the fuselage halves and the rear section of the nacelles. To be honest, the detail on the Falcon kit is lacking compared to the Hasegawa kit, and I'll show you that in a moment. I also worry about cracks forming in the parts when trying to cut them from the sheet because of their age, being brittle and so on. And you can see some pieces cracked off here. I have some tape on there covering a crack. So, he's absolutely right. This is extremely brittle. So I took a different approach, and I hope you'll like it. The fuselage halves. I took photos of the Falcon fuselage halves and imported them into Photoshop, making sure the exact measurements were maintained. So that's what he's talking about on this. I outlined the new windows and double door and made a separate template that is exactly to scale. The plan is to have you print out this page, cut out the template, and overlay it on the Hasegawa fuselage halves. You can mark the windows to be removed and the double door to be scribed. If you were to use the Falcon kit, you'd still have to cut the windows and the double door, and the detail is faint and would need attention. And it has, he's right, very faint detail on here, and I'd still have to pop out all these windows. And further scribe and things of that nature. When we get to the kit version, you'll see how much more detailed it is. And again, he gives instructions on how to handle that. And so here are the templates that I was talking about. Rear engine nacelles. In the S2 tracker, the rear section of the engine nacelles is where the sound buoy launch system is located. The US-2 tracker had all the ASW equipment removed. I think the Falcon kit is based off the S2 tracker and not the US-2 tracker, which I explained, I think it's two different kits. In the Hasegawa kit, it looks like they already removed the sound buoy equipment and closed off the rear engine nacelles with their resin parts. And I'll show you those resin parts in a little bit. So we don't need the Falcon conversion kit here. So as I said before, he kind of shows how to handle this. And here's those resin parts filling it. And so his recommendation is don't bother. And looking at all through this, I totally agree. So then lastly, the book, talking about this. There are 169 sequential steps that logically take you through building the Hasegawa kits. The steps provide options to convert a C-1A trader, along with the integrating steps to add the Black Dog wing fold kit and the quick boost parts. I've designed it so you just have to follow one step at a time. All the information needed is provided in each figure step group. Take your time providing any feedback and final photos. I'm in absolutely no hurry. Could be a while before he gets to it. He noted that he did just finish the S2F tracker in 1:48 scale from the kinetic kit. So the knowledge gained from that project was helpful here. I'm on to my next book, the Tamiya P38 FG Lightning in 1:48. Thanks, Glenn. Right off the bat, he eliminated this from having to deal with this. And we're just going to deal with these three kits here. Just following the book, we'll start by looking at the kit parts. It's a special version with some resin parts. Typically when they put this special version in gold, it includes some special resin parts to modify the plane. We have the decals. And we have the screws. Now again, I had sent these to Glenn. He took them out, scanned them in, got his measurements, all that type of stuff, and then put everything exactly back the way he found it. Thank you so much, Glenn. Oh yeah. And I'll get some close-ups of this, but there's a lot more detail. We'll see what needs to be filled in. We'll follow that, but it's much nicer. And then some of this stuff is going to come off. Then on this next sprue, so the pieces we're not going to use here, and then while we're here, and I mentioned this in my first video, so these parts here, and Glenn already acknowledged this, and he sent me an email right after that last video. I said, yep, I see that, I'm going to take that out of there. So these, I'm going to be taking these off when we get to that point. Because they are just not there. Other than that, everything looks good. There's some flash that's going to be needed cleaned up, but not too bad. This guy he's got a hole I'm going to have to fill. The detail on the wings and everything else is just really nice. Yeah, I like these Hasegawa kits. They're really nice. Next, the clear parts. This goes on that one radar dome, so that's not going to be used. But those again, and they do, I was wondering, I never took these out, and I couldn't see it close enough, but they do have the windshield wiper. Yeah, that's raised. Okay, good. And then next we have these resin parts. And as I read in the letter, these are to close up these tail ends to get them to be smooth. I'm going to assume I'm going to need to fill that with some putty and such. But those are the parts. We'll see what Glenn says. And then these two kits. So again, the kit to fold the wings, and then engines more specific to the tracker, which I believe is later, and I think is more appropriate. And I will double check that. I'll look really close on my references and see what those engines look like. I think I have some, and I can zoom in on them. If those are appropriate, I will use them. If not, I won't. I can leave them in here if he wants for the tracker, because I believe they are appropriate to the tracker for sure. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so flowchart on the build. We're going to do the cockpit first, and then what he calls the C-1A modification. I believe that's all the modifications to the fuselage assembly, then the engine nacelles, then the wing fold prep, wing fuselage assembly, canopy and horizontal stabilizers, paint and decals, landing gear, antenna wire, wing fold assembly, propellers, small parts. He gives the paint instructions along the way. So I'm going to be painting things as I go. Antenna wire. That is something I'm really looking forward to. And if I do it well, and that's one of the reasons these, if you can see where all the wires are going on here. So I'm really excited. And if I do them well enough on this kit, then I'm going to go back to the A3 Sky Warriors and do the wires on those. So we'll see, you know, how Glenn guides me on that. Never done that before. And because, you know, 1:72 is pretty small, you can get away without doing the wires, but I always feel bad about it. I'm going to do it on this one. He included how to. I'm going to give it a shot, and if I do it well, I'll retrofit some of those other ones. So with that, I'm going to start digging into it, and I'm just going to record and take pictures along the way, and then fold that into an update video. So in my next video, I'll be digging into the kits and beginning the builds following Glenn's instructions. Until then, thanks for watching and happy modeling.